Economic Forum has released their annual study on competitiveness in the global economy. They looked at the competitiveness landscape of 140 economies through 98 indicators organized into 12 pillars. Now, for each indicator, using a scale from 0 to 100, it indicates how close an economy is to the ideal state or frontier of competitiveness. The United States achieved the best overall performance with a score of 85.6 ahead of Singapore and Germany. The average score for the world is 60. South Africa is ranked 67, falling 5 places this year. Roberto Crotti from the World Economic Forum and the lead on this index research joins me via Skype now. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Talk to us about what makes this ideal society in terms of the competitiveness index.
Good evening. Well, we don't really have a recipe for a perfect society, but we know what it takes for an economy to be competitive. So with the new index, with the new methodology, we really look at those aspects that are going to become more important in the world where the fourth industrial revolution is going to take place. And therefore, in the new index, we really highlight those factors that make country agile, resilient to shocks, and also build a strong, innovative ecosystem. That means that not only the country needs to have in place research and development and laboratories, but also an environment that fosters collaboration, creativity, and exchange of information.
So take us through your methodology and how you determine how these factors work together and make it actually work.
Yeah, so from a technical point of view, we look at 12 pillars. We have maintained the number of pillars compared to the previous methodology, and the 12 dimensions we look at are the institutional quality of a country, the infrastructure, which includes both the transport as well as utility infrastructure, the health, the ICT adoption, the skills, the product market, the labor market efficiency, and the functioning of the financial system, the market size, the business dynamism, and innovation capabilities.
So the fourth industrial revolution.
Together, all these pillars are given an equal weight, so we expect each country across all stages of development to have exactly the same give us the same priority to all factors depending on the possibility of each country.
So the fourth industrial revolution is a big marker for competitiveness. Do you think that developing countries will fall even further behind in your survey next year if they don't find ways to adapt and catch up?
According to the new methodology, we give the opportunity to everybody to reach out to leapfrogging opportunities, given that there is no specific formula for achieving competitiveness, comparing advanced economy versus developing countries. However, we do see that there is still a big gap, especially when it comes to innovation, between the biggest powerhouse in the world and the developing economies. Therefore, the leapfrogging opportunities, although are there, have not yet materialized. And this is to some extent due to the fact that there is still some delays in some enabling factors such as human capital, electricity, and ICT adoption.
Okay, so the US is ranked #1 in the competitiveness report, but the report also speaks about the importance of openness for competitiveness. How do you balance that with the US's protectionist stance?
Yeah, so to date, according to the statistics that we use, the United States are still a fairly open economy. However, looking forward, how the new possible policy stand will play out can have an impact on competitiveness, and it will depend on the details on how it will actually play out. And we certainly monitor it through the few next editions of the GCI.
Okay, let's come back to something that we're a little bit more familiar with, BRICS, China is the most competitive out of that grouping, ranking 28 in the Global Competitiveness Index. They had a score of 72.6. They're also followed by Russia, which was at 43, and South Africa, which fell to 67. Why do you think that South Africa fell that 5 places?
So when we look at the difference between South Africa and the other emerging economies, we clearly see a difference in terms, especially of some of the human factors, especially health or also ICT adoption. And specifically this year, South Africa, the performance of South Africa was held back by a declining performance of some aspects, such as the business dynamism, for example, the reduction of openness and trade openness, and also domestic competition, and also to some extent to less fast ICT adoption compared to other countries.
When we look at countries on the African continent, we see that Kenya is making quite good leaps, and Mauritius is ahead of South Africa in terms of competitiveness. Can you briefly talk us through why that is?
Yeah, so when you look at the difference between Mauritius and South Africa, we see that they have in place, they have in general more pillars, more dimensions where they perform better overall. If you look at, for example, health conditions, on average, a person from South Africa is expected to live less years free of illnesses and disabilities compared to average Mauritian. And similarly on ICT adoption again and skills, on average the performance of South Africa is somewhat lower. When we look at Kenya, although it ranks a couple of positions lower than South Africa, they're emerging as innovative powerhouse relative to the continent, and they're particularly strong when it comes to the business component. There's a very vibrant, dynamic business sector there.
Thanks so much for your time, Roberto Crotti from the World Economic Forum. He was the lead researcher on the Competitiveness Index, and he joined us from Geneva, Switzerland via Skype.